And it was crowded with all the boats. Every time I look, there were people trying to park around your house.
Yeah, we had, well, we have parking in our
That's-
driveway, but there was no parking. You
Yeah,
can forget about parking down our way for the last 3 weeks.
it was crazy.
Yeah. Just glad it's over.
Oh, Marvin's on Zoom, right? Is that him?
I think that is him, yes.
Awesome.
Hi,
Well,
everybody.
Hey,
Hi, Marvin. Marvin.
Okay, you are live on Facebook. You can start your meeting.
call the meeting to order. Start with roll call. Mr. Keller,
Here.
Mr. Major,
Here.
Ms. Phillips,
here.
and Mr. Sievert.
Here.
Ms. Holycross is present as well. We're going to go through our agenda. So I think we did a really good job of identifying the areas. So I would assume at this point, we'll just go through and kind of really hit the verbiage. I don't really know what it's like to write up. Do we have a template that we'll use or?
We do not have a template you have to follow for your report to mayor and council, but you really need to kind of come up with the priorities and few items you want to put on your report, recommendation or suggestions. Also, you have to write why are you making such recommendation or suggestion, how you are going to accomplish it, and what's your end goal with it, what's your objective. And we're thinking if while you're going through the minutes and the initiatives, maybe we can already kind of narrow it down, because we already had Lauren on the HRC meeting and she did tell you how communication strategies are for the city and how you can share information. We already know that HRC has to use city's website and social media page to share information. So you already know the steps. So you'll be sending your request to Lauren, Mr. Titterington, Mayor will review you. Sorry, and then we will be posting on the social media. So and the budget, I know that Marvin was working on the budget, but I told him that if he has the line item budget and he has the items he's requesting money for, it really has to go through the city first. He has to send an email to Mr. Titterington, Miss Knight, and Mayor. I don't know if he had already done that or not. Marvin, did you already email to them or no?
No, I did not, because I wanted everyone to see the budget first. And so I was going to send it out through email. Just
So
let
if
them
you
have
do
it
have
and
that
they can
ready
do
for
that.
today, and if you all can kind of share your suggestions, maybe he can already move forward and send that to the city so they can start the budgeting process. And I don't know how it will go, how much money you'll be getting, how much money will be allocated for HRC. I'm not really involved in budget process, so I cannot really tell you much about it. So, and yeah, that's not really an initiative or recommendation you're putting on the report you will submit to mayor and city council. So that's already off your list. And I don't think you should be putting increased awareness about HRC on your report too, because that's kind of routine stuff, the posts you want to have on social media. So those will come up every time you want some information to be out there for public to see. So I don't really think that's the thing you have to worry for your report. But that's my opinion. I don't. And maybe you can prioritize from community initiatives, history preservation and acknowledgement. I know that we talked about historical markers, walking history, creating QR codes. I know that Sonia was going to reach out to Chris Manning, and
Yeah.
so there are already some people who did or are in the process of doing research when it comes to.
There's an actual historical preservation alliance being built right now. I think it's bigger than the downtown building. They're working on a 501(c). So that might be something again that we can look at a later date. The
Oh.
last meeting, I thought we did really good at summarizing. I think if we maybe look through this, because again, 2 to 4 events per year in regards to the history. um,
Was that the naming of the streets or whatever? Is that what
Well, it
that was about?
almost seemed like it started that we were looking at the streets, we made sure all the names in the city street names were, not degrading or inappropriate or whatnot, but then it kind of morphed into possibly doing some education, preservation in regards to the Lincoln Center. Also city markers, but I'll be honest, I don't think it's taking much. It's not getting momentum. I feel like we kind of keep talking about it and then just kind of just gets fizzled. But we also, again, we hone down, but I know like in most areas, I felt we landed our plan, so to speak. Like we were gonna promote the play at the Civic Theater. We were gonna have certain events we were gonna do. So I think it's just a matter of maybe just having 1 or 2 specific lines, like maybe we will work with
Mhm.
the people that are working to preserve history to see. I've asked, like I've talked to Chris Manning, she is the Frontier Time and she's working on a display right now. And, simply everybody could use funding. I asked her things like, is there a play that could help people? Because she talks about, it's for the African American experience that far back. A lot of people don't even think that there was an experience that far back. And so having awareness of that. So she's working and she's willing to partner. She's willing to help in any way, but she has a specific area and time of history. So I think, again, getting all the history people to the table, that's, what I felt. That's what I felt the whole team had talked about. But I think it's just as a team coming up with what we all collectively feel that we should do in that area. I think at this point, I've just done research and, we've shared kind of a little bit of ideas, but I don't think we've necessarily said this is definitively as a team what we would recommend or.
I think once you have a information from all those people, you'll be reaching out and you'll have an idea what kind of research they have done. Maybe then you can compile that together and you'll have a better idea where you want to display it and how you want to put out there for public to have an access to it. I think it's hard to think about the place right now for that because you don't have that actual history and material ready. So I think maybe first step is really to get kind of read the research and get familiar to their work and then decide how to proceed with that.
I think historical marker system, you place it where the history happened.
Mhm.
I think that's kind of where we landed at the last meeting, like that's kind of word for word thought. I kept rewinding Zoom, like to clarify that I feel like that's a fair place to start with that. Just like the Nineveh, they get honored there. We talked about Hollywood and Slat, like we had the conversation, but again, I think now we're getting down to what is the referral. So that's why the first thing, like we summed it up with, was with the historical marker system, and then the events that influence. Again, some of these, if we have 2 to 4 events, that can go up with that. If we're doing cultural events to influence, so some of it might just be redundant. So as a team, I'm your secretary, but I'm not your chair, so to speak. So tell me how we want to look at these. So in regards to the first initiative, I mean, do you feel that is weaned down? Do you feel like we need to do more or less in regards to what we do?
I know I'm talking too much today.
No.
I don't know
it's
why,
okay.
but for example, for historical markers, if that's the item you want to put on your report to mayor and city council, and you are suggesting that you want to have historical markers around the city, you need to have a list where and what places are you talking about. So you have to identify those areas you are going to put markers out. They wouldn't have to have that. They need to have that information because this is too vague. Historical markers. Where do you mean? What kind of markers are you suggesting?
And I think we can do it. Can I talk for a second?
Yeah.
I'm just,
No, I
I'm
kinda
gonna
need
talk
you
and then
to,
I'll tell you
yeah.
where from my perspective, where I think we are. I think we can realistically put in place certain recommendations regarding the law enforcement one. I think we need to have Sean come again one more time, but I do think that when you look at A, B, C, and D, that we have on there, I think we definitely can do a, relevant rules and regulations. I talked to Sean when he was here last week, whenever we had the, my God, we have a meeting every week, I think, at this thing, but at that, so I think Sean's willing to do that. I think they're willing to look at the video concept. They actually had a pretty good thought that maybe that could be incorporated through the well, I guess it's not the DARE program anymore, but the student resource officer through Chris Tilley. So I think when you look through those, that would be fine. I don't know about the Citizens Review Board or the city ordinance yet. I mean, those are things that I think we have to get a lot more information on and involvement on to see how, how they would feel about incorporating citizens review into the.
I
And
spoke to
then-
him about that and he's not against it.
No, I'm not saying.
But I think that, I guess my question is, do we just start the language though? Like the
conversation?
recommendation would be that we want to start the conversation of what it looks like to have a citizens review board in Troy, Ohio.
I think that's fine. I'm just trying to get, I mean, we just keep getting compressed with time, and I was kind of being a little facetious about the number of meetings, but we've already lost, what, 5 people or something, or 4 people,
Four.
and we're gonna just, I mean, if we keep working at this pace, people are just gonna burn out.
So should we not start, I guess.
No,
that's the
no, I'm good with
question.
starting the conversation. You just have, I mean, it's gonna have to be like a simmering conversation, I think. I think we have to get some concrete things that we think are relevant, and I don't want to speak for everybody, I'm just telling you what my thoughts were, but I mean, those are things that I think are concrete, that can be incorporated, that we can give to the mayor, and to follow the action plan that Solomon said, here's what it is, here's how we plan to incorporate it, and here's what the timeline and process would be. And then I think you have these sort of ethereal thoughts of, well, these are things that we'd like to see happen. We'd like to have, some historical aspect of, and maybe it's through Pat Kelly, or Pat Kennedy, maybe. Kennedy, Tim, and there was somebody else. And I talked to Shane the other day, and apparently they did a tour at one time of the Underground Railroad houses. And, there's lots of things like that perhaps we could incorporate or look at doing, and I think that would be good. So when I went through it, I said law enforcement, here are, we should definitely look at doing A and B, think about C and D. The local election process, I mean, they're all really good ideas. I just don't know that the Board of Elections really cares what we say, but I mean, if we want to draft a letter that says, hey, we all met and this is what our thoughts would be, and that we would be willing to open up some areas for ballot boxes, and, I think that was all good. I don't think the budget's going to be applicable for us at this stage. I really think the community events and public awareness is an area that we can make great strides in sort of, coordinating things. And I think Festival of Nations is really good. I think sponsoring a concert, I think everybody seems to think that that's a good thing for us to do. I'm still advocating the play. I know that's not, maybe what everybody likes, but I think that if you could get the Troy Civic Theater to, have one of their, I don't know anything about theater, but if it's gotta be hard to find material all the time for people.
Sorry to interrupt.
Huh?
Sorry to interrupt. Before you go to Troy Civic Theater, I think you should find out who owns the rights to the play. And I think that's how it is done. So you find out who has owns the rights, and then if you have a permission, then you approach Troy Civic Theater.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's, and I agree. And I forget whether it was in your minutes or whether it was in one of our conversations. You know, I like the cookout concept. I know Troy Main Street on their first Fridays always tries to look for some sort of theme. This is just talking. We haven't talked to Troy Main Street. Salome might know well. We may have a little bit of a connection with Troy Main Street. There may be somebody around here that knows somebody connected with Troy Main Street, but you know, maybe that would be, you know, to incorporate sort of maybe not your historical marker so much. I mean, eventually that would be good, but maybe have sort of a night where, you know, typical minority, I don't know, typical, that's a bad word. You know, you could have outreach from different agencies that we've talked about, that we've learned about over these last months. And they could set up their little tables like we do, or a lot of the downtown. And yeah, that would be a really cool, and maybe that's when you have your concert. You know, you have your concert downtown at Crowley Plaza, one of, you know, I don't know, Mayor June's first night out, and you have a lot of, a little walking tour of the church where the Underground Railroad was, or, you know, I know one of the things they brought up about the building is it the Randolph slaves?
Mm-hmm.
Is that what it was? So that's brought up, and maybe, you know, the history of Richard's Chapel, and
So we're looking at those as more long-term things. And
no,
that's fine.
I think that's a to-do thing. I think you can
Okay.
I think we could recommend that we're going to reach out to Troy Main Street, or to have a city, to have during one of their Friday nights, that we're going to have a sort of history of African American or minority, or even the Japanese.
We're gonna have a cookout. That's all you gotta say. We're
Gonna have a
cookout.
Mr. Kenny's not here today. He keeps telling me his ribs are the best in town.
Okay,
Yeah,
so,
but that's what I would think. Historical preservation acknowledgement, I'm with Salome. I think that's a really good idea. I don't know how you get there. And increased awareness about the HRC. I mean, we've got the brochures, having that a Friday night event, having a concert. I think that's what we have. You know, the whole, in my mind, when this started, the whole purpose was A, ascertain if there's a problem, B, if there is a problem, address it, and C, work to unify all people in all communities, of irrespective of race, gender, orientation, anything like that. And I think we need to, we can do that. So that would be my recommendations. I'll turn the floor to Don, who's not in.
I go ahead, Marvin.
Thanks. I was just going to jump in. I know that our last meeting, we had talked about a couple things regarding law enforcement. We were going to have a meeting to see if we could implement a training for kids that are going through driver's training. And I did receive an email from Joel. He was saying that that's something that is already being done. However, as I look through the curricula for all the driver's ed training classes that are available, I don't see it anywhere in there. So I'll still investigate that. I still think that, you know, if it's not a state law at this time, I think we should track that and try and work with people to make sure that that becomes a state law. And if it's not, you know, in place already. So that's one thing. And then also to have at least a meeting every 6 months with the law enforcement so that we can review the reports that they're sending to city council those reports have all the arrests, it has all the stops, and it breaks it down by race. And I think that those are great discussions to have just to make sure that we're looking at that data that's already there. And then additionally, we had talked about for the historical piece, we were going to look at a QR code, so like a walk and explore. And I did do some research on that. It's not really expensive to do because it's essentially a flyer that we would have to create that we would stick on a window or a door of a business or a building, and then people can walk and explore it. But that information links to a web page that we would have to work with someone to create. So that's not expensive to do. I think that's very simple. And then the other thing that we looked at was meeting with all the church leaders. So my fault, I didn't get with John to ask for a list of all the parishioners of churches here in Troy, but I think that's very important for us to meet with them at least twice a year, if not more, so that we can tie them into what's going on at HRC, because I think we'll find all of our ethnic groups there so that we can reach out to them and meet with them. So John, is that a list that you already have?
I talked to Sonia, because Partners in Hope has a good list.
Okay.
And so, yeah, we have a list together of right now of addresses, but not necessarily, I don't know if you want it to be a mailing to go out. That's the information we have now. We need to add.
So a lot of our churches, from experience, and no disrespect, but I think would prefer a mailing. We have newer churches that are super hip and have emails, but for the majority of our biggest, well, I won't say that, but for the majority, people want snail mail. So I didn't add emails, but if you want, we can forward it to you and you can either look them up and get the emails, or we can work on getting emails, but I just had the addresses.
How many churches are we talking about in the community?
Oh, I think we have like 23 partners, and the list went on after that.
Hey, Marvin, while they're looking that up, I agree. Maybe because I know in Zoom you don't hear, but I think we sort of agreed with everything you said. The
Yes.
QR codes were something that I think we can do, and there's maybe a mechanism to do that that's sort of in the works right now, and we'll see how all of those facts play out. But the only thing that when I talked to Joel after the meeting last week, he thought it may be better to incorporate the video into the curriculum that they give when they do their health class at the school, as opposed to the driver's ed, because the driver's ed is more of a, I guess you don't do driver's ed through the school anymore. You do it like through AAA or some private people. And he did, I mean, I guess if you made it a law, we could do it, that's obviously something you could do, but
Not every kid goes to driver's ed. I mean,
Right.
I couldn't
Right.
afford it. I drove at 18, so
Yeah.
not everybody.
so I think when I talked to, and I don't want to, this was just an idea that he brought to me, was that might work better through the school resource officer, who I think is Chris Tilley, and that get added to the curriculum that way. So you're talking about a video on like how to interact with police and what you should do if that's what you're talking about, right? Like you get pulled over, how
Yeah.
you handle that situation.
Well, and then just some information about how a police will conduct an interview when he pulls you over or she pulls you over. Like, what is the cop going to do? What's the expectation of the civilian? So that we have a clear line of communication and also a clear path of understanding for both parties. Because I think a lot of people have no idea, and so I think that's kind of what I was alluding to. And then also talking about resisting arrest, like what does that mean? Because the average I think the average civilian has no idea, right? We have no idea. So I think in order to
If you
keep
don't know, you don't have to answer the question. Do you know why I pulled you over?
right. So Yeah, I would
What age is the
think
resource
that those
officer?
two items would be good.
I think the school resource officer does ninth grade.
They have one in the middle school too. They have two SROs, and then I
Okay.
believe that they also touch base with the elementaries at some point during the day or.
Because if it's a younger age than driving, it can be expanded a little bit, just not when you're pulled over, but anytime, you're interacting with a law enforcement officer. I mean,
When I talked to Joel, I thought he said it was either ninth or 10th grade.
that was-
Tilly's in the high school.
And that's when Tilly's in the high school.
Yeah, he's in the
And
high
he
school.
just thought that that would be a good,
I'll be honest, if it's in the health, if it's our part of SRO or considered any of that, it kind of holds more weight and gets to more people, so.
I'm sorry if it's in what, Sonia? I didn't hear you. Sorry.
I think it can hold more weight and get to more people. I mean, because you're acknowledging it's crisis. It's something that the society needs to learn. If it's in the school setting with
Right.
people, I mean, I think it makes sense. And Chris has a really good, Officer Tilly has a really good relationship with the kids. I mean, even in the Monday protests or whatever we call it now, he was able to pray with them and like get them all to calm down too. So, yeah, I think it makes sense.
and I like your idea of the, whatever it is, the 6-month meeting, I think you said, and just sort of keep a check on things.
Could that be the beginning of a overview? Maybe just incorporate it in that. I think at this point, tell me as your secretary, kind of tell me what we're not gonna put in this proposal, and then and then as Salome said, to how are we gonna do it? Because we
Well-
have, right, Salome, that's where we gotta get now, right, is the explanation of what we're doing. I've never done this. It's
Yes, I
okay,
mean,
Tom.
you have to provide information. Why are you suggesting? How are you going to accomplish it, and what is the end goal?
Okay, so this is what we need to get to.
It might not apply to all your suggestions and recommendations.
Okay, why, how, and when, and then I guess who's writing the recommendation?
Each committee will provide
I'll write it.
recommendations, and both committee
There you
will
go.
present it to Human Relations Commission and at your regular meeting, and then as a commission, you'll decide if you are going to put all the recommendations combined from both committees, or you'll be picking some from it. But it has to go to commission first from both
Okay.
committees.
Okay,
And then as a commission, you'll make final decision.
right. So like the dream of all dreams is we would have all of those with the how, the why, the how, and the end for the next HRC.
Yes, but as I said, that might not apply to all of them, like
right.
supporting, sponsoring concerts.
Yeah.
You will explain why and how you're going to do it, but you might not have that many steps for historical markers or some other items on your minutes right now.
I think that the history preservation is huge. But again, if we have another group that's already starting that, how do we support them? I just think we have to, not all the work is ours to do, and we need to decide what is our work to do, and if there's already a group over here that's starting the history preservation, how do we assist them but let them do the work? So as far as the historical markers, I think that's huge, but to me, it makes more sense if you got a historical preservation group.
Yeah, it's called the
Forming.
Troy Historic Preservation Alliance. Vince Southerly, I've been talking to him. Again, I can't be at all these things all the time, so their meeting is right now via Zoom too. But I'm sure he would come and talk to us and we could ask.
That's why I'm saying you need to prioritize, because you all have a full-time jobs, you are
Yeah.
busy.
Yeah.
And I know that you want to accomplish everything on it, but you really need to prioritize and kind of build timeline when you want those things to be kind of done.
Okay, so let's look at law enforcement. Everybody agrees we should have a video, right? That's,
Yes.
everyone kind of thinks, if we can tell, Marvin, if you need some help writing it too, I'll said that, if you want to take a stab, or, I mean, I'm sure you're more than capable, but if you need any help, I'll be glad to help you too. But let's look at that. So we know that we need to have that. And I know we talked about doing some sort of community outreach, open house, letting, working on community relations between the police and everybody else, right? We talked about that at some point in time. So a community involved policing approach, building open forums to discuss policy and those sorts of things on an annual, biannual basis. So I think that's how I read that as some sort of, what we can say is we think that we need to increase awareness through open house annually, biannually on, have somebody talk about things, address questions from the community, tour the facility, have something like that. That's how I read that. If somebody reads it differently, that's.
I'll be honest, I thought it was, I was like, we're done, that's good.
So I think we definitely can look at those two things without hesitation. And just from the police officers who were here, I think that they support that, and I think they want to do that. I think I've said this like 10 times since this started, but you don't know what you don't know. And one of the things that I think we can really hammer home is an awareness of these issues so that the dialogue starts, right? I mean, if everybody stays quiet, then you never get the dialogue. So you have to get the dialogue started. So I think those things are fine. I think those are really good. So I think A and B, we definitely look at. C and D, I think we can look at. I just don't know that we can get to the level by December that we're in a position that we want to say we need to work at the Citizens Review Board or the ordinance.
Why don't we just interchange it with Sean coming every 6 months like Marvin suggested?
I think that's
for
good.
now.
Yeah, so an annual meeting, have a 6-month meeting with the police to talk about the reports and the video. And I think if we walk out with those three things solid, here's how we want to do it, here's why we want to implement it, and what, I think that's a pretty good stop with that. I'll flip it to you guys on the local election process. I mean, I don't mind if you want to write them a letter. I don't know that has to be in the recommendation that we give to the city, because the mayor's going to look at this and say, hey, I appreciate your time and effort, but.
I'll be honest, if we get through, once we utilize the website, I mean, we're just their tools, so we would do these things intrinsically. We would
Right.
talk about 17-year-olds that can register and felons that would vote. So, and again, Ian, I mean, he's a stellar dude. He's gonna do these things too. He's already working on them.
Holy
So
cow,
if we're
yeah.
prioritizing, I think I said this last meeting too, like, I would think that that's not the priority right now out of this list.
Well, clearly awareness has gone out in the community, because they were what, like 68% turnout or something. Huh?
Come on.
It was out.
Stand up for your rights.
Yeah, I've been
So-
singing it all week.
So anyway, so that, the local election process from my mind is we can sort of, if we want to write a letter or do something, that's fine, that's good. Budget, I don't know that we can do anything. Even the city council members, I mean, we participate in the budget, we read it, we go through it, but I mean, we don't compile it, we don't,
Right.
the safety service director meets with each individual department head, and I don't know that we can really do much with that one. Community events, Festival of Nations is obviously that's a marriage made in heaven for this group, I think. I mean, that's absolutely something that we should work on incorporating, supporting, facilitating. I think that's something that we could absolutely do. I think we should do a concert to create awareness, and I think that's already kind of maybe in the works. Is that?
It
your
is. We
understanding?
talked to Recreation Director Ken Seiler, and he said he will reach out to promoters to inquire what bands and performers we can
Nice.
invite. And Sonia provided few. She sent me an email,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I did forward your email to Recreation Director.
thank you.
So he'll reach out to you, and he'll find more information on each performer, and
Okay.
hopefully some will come to the concerts.
Oh, I'm
So
excited.
yeah.
That'd be
And-
cool. That one could be like, what were the people that came? Mumford and Son. I mean, it could be like, well, not that crazy. Don't say that. City might not work,
Please,
but
no.
well, I suggested Kane Brown. He's a biracial country singer, and he's like a social media, but he was like at in Dayton, so it's not like he's so popular now that you can't afford to get him. And then Saeed has Frequency. He used to go to, you know, the three girls that passed away. Otis Jones, I think, was his former name, but he's in a band. So there are a lot of local people.
Is that the group that performed that
Frequency.
thing that, what's the young lady's name?
Oh, at the Light Stop?
Yeah,
No, but I think that was the Motown or the sound of something.
they
I don't know.
were,
I just started researching.
they were good.
Yeah,
they were real
they're
good.
one of the recommendations.
Oh,
on
the
there.
group
Were they?
Touch
They-
Sound of Motown.
Yeah, something.
They're
that touches-
real good.
Yeah.
Oh, we talked about them. We looked
Yeah.
them up. last
Yes,
night.
Yeah,
yes.
I was listening.
That band is on the list you
Yeah.
sent me, and we
Real
also
good.
gave that name to Ken Seiler when we had the internal meeting with him.
That's awesome. Yeah, and then like like fans like that go to Riverbend.
Yeah.
They can come here, and we will go back to the '80s gladly.
Also, we have a lot of raw talent in Troy
yeah,
that are musicians.
we need an open.
It would
mic.
be nice to do something,
Mhm.
you know, and maybe not the first one, but incorporate them in, you know, what's going on with that.
I agree.
We
That's
have
why I
a
put
lot of
Frequency
talent in
on
Troy.
there. They played at the center before.
Mhm.
They're really good. They're a cover band, so they'll play
Yeah.
anything. And yeah, they're really good. I had fun with that.
So-
But if you-
With
some-
music, my question, what kind of social justice or race relations message do they bring with that?
So the ones that I suggested were either multicultural, across genres. So they might be African American, but maybe they are in a country genre, or maybe they're in an alternative. So it was kind of just a mixture. There was no necessarily social justice. At least I didn't think of a social justice. It was more of a what could bring a community together, but in a diverse lens. So I didn't think about that actually of social. I did mention though the need for like an open mic, an open forum where people
Mhm.
can,
Mm-hmm.
express their medium of, whether it's a
It's not,
word or
right,
social justice or ukulele, whatever, rap,
right.
So I did suggest that, but I didn't think about a social justice lens of a concert. That's interesting. I didn't.
But again, I just think you bring the mass together to educate them a little bit on race relation or
I think it's just to get people together.
Together. Yeah.
I don't think when you start getting into try to always make it a racial, you know what I mean, thing, because I don't like country.
Right.
but
me
I'll
either.
listen
to
I
it.
don't see-
I'll listen to it.
I don't
and
like
support
it.
it, but it's not my genre. It's not
This
what
is
I
more
like.
like entertainment,
Right.
bringing community together and bringing diverse
You see the difference.
performers to the
Gospel,
city.
too.
Like
But
gospel.
I'm
Yeah.
saying, could you lay the two together? I understand that, but also could you lay the two together a little bit?
Yeah,
Well-
and I think you can, yeah, John, and just to put an example, I can't remember what the band was when like Troy Rotary, well, Troy Rotary started to sponsor a concert for the 4th of July, right? I mean, we didn't, obviously we did this year, but for whatever this would have been 4 years, the 4th year, I think, 3rd or 4th year. And it's all, there's always a break between sets. And I think it's an opportunity for someone like Marvin to take the microphone and say, the mayor appointed this commission in July and here's what we've set forth. And so it may not be a social justice message in the aspect of, from a political perspective, I guess, or maybe
No, not
political,
political.
but from a
No.
but I think it's an awareness perspective that you really could provide at that concert, and we could have, those, if we print up those brochures, or I don't know, Rotary bought some T-shirts one year, I think, in Jessica Capple's year, and wore T-shirts that said, you know, come talk to us about Rotary, and so if you did something like that, and going back to the budget, I think that's more like what the city is looking for too, is to say, hey, we'd like to have, you know, a few $100s to buy, you know, 20 T-shirts for HRC members to wear at this concert, and, you know, ask us about HRC or tell us what it's about, and we can spread the word that way. I think that's really how I see that. And then maybe the event, the cookout event, if Andrea would have a weekend, I don't know how advanced they are on making those, but you know, if we could get a first Friday where you could do the cookout and you know, I don't.
So that would be more of the HRC. So when I did those recommendations, they were like for the year, not for our 2 to 4 events.
Mhm.
So I see where you want to tie HRC with those 2 to 4 events.
Also, another point is that a few times was mentioned that the performers we had on a previous concert, were not really bringing diverse people to the
At all.
concerts.
Yeah.
So that's another reason why we
Mhm.
really started looking into this.
Yeah.
And
I agree.
we've been so good
So you're
at
talking
Christian
about country.
concerts and things. He just happens to be a popular
I think we gotta have a
young man.
rapper.
Very popular.
Well,
I
you
saw
know
his
what?
videos
They
and
have Christian rappers.
Yeah, they have. And
There's
I'll
some
be honest,
really
if
good
we want a
Christian
rapper. I mean, Craig Wallace has been rapping and making videos all over the city of Troy.
Yeah,
And
he's
a phenomenal
good.
rapper, and he went to Troy
He's
High
good.
School.
Yeah,
So yeah, I mean,
like I said, we
think
have a lot of
that's-
raw talent.
Yeah, we have a lot
Yeah,
of
not
people-
just rappers or singers, but
Yeah.
musicians that play instruments and
Mhm.
have a lot of
I
talent.
agree.
And you know, I
Gotta
think
think about
with the
demographics.
being brown skin, sorry.
I just think you need, with a concert, you need to think about demographics, and again, the city's probably better at that than I am.
Yeah, if you've
But
seen a Kane Brown
Depending on who you
concert,
bring in,
it's multi. But that's what's so unique about it. Like
Okay.
it's so multi-diverse. He's came from TikTok, I think. Do you know who he is?
Yeah.
Okay, like you're that age. I'm reaching. He's pretty popular across the gamut. Am I right?
I don't really know
Okay,
that much.
no,
Yeah.
you're fine.
And Sonia is correct. It's not only about race either and diversity.
Right.
It's about age. We're not really attracting on many concerts younger
Mostly older.
Troy population. So yes, we want to incorporate all that ideas so we can bring more diverse group, race.
I mean, there's also 2 components here when we're looking at entertainment. I mean, one, you have the concert at Treasure Island, which is a big event where you get thousands of people and that. And then you have the first Friday where, you know, they might put up the stage and
That's Troy Main Street.
That's,
Mhm.
yeah. Which again, we may have a little bit of some pull there. So, you know, but I think if they would let us have a first Friday event, like the nonprofits, they do that. I know they do, you know, whatever that, you know, that would be where you would have maybe a smaller, like you're talking about, the open mic type of deal or something like that.
We should have it like a family reunion.
Oh.
And like because we're rural, you
Mhm.
could have like the last names that you're connected to.
Mhm.
Because even if you don't have that last name, you still know like oh, I'm a
Mhm.
cousin of this family. That would be really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be fun.
So I think to wrap up, I think community events, Festival of Nations, no problem. We definitely need to have a concert, and then I like the idea of a cookout and some sort of deal. And then I think we sort of put on a short back burner, the QR codes, getting that information. I think that's a great idea, and I do think there's going to be an opportunity for that all to occur, rather, because I know Vince Sutherland fairly well too, and I think there's some things that are going on that might give us an opportunity to
Can we put the
incorporate that sort of
kiosk
stuff.
with that? The kiosk connecting the youth
Yeah, I think
together.
if chips fall, there could be places and kiosks and all sorts of stuff, so. So I think that's good. And then, I mean, the last one on, for today at least is, and I get these all confused, but I think the last one for today is the increased awareness. And I think we've really talked about that. That's incumbent upon us. We've got, what are we down to now? 8 people?
Yes.
So, the 8 of us have to be the spokespersons for this commission to be able to say, here's what we want, Because there's gonna be people that might say, well, was it worth it or was it not worth it? And what did you accomplish and why did we do this? And I think it's imperative upon us to promote that narrative, and this is what we learned, and you don't know what you don't know. And, I mean, it really has been an interesting observation from, our conversations about poverty and transportation and the tripod, and now we've worked to this concept, because as we kept finding holes, what we perceived as holes in the community, we found out that there were people that were trying to dam up the hole.
That's a great way to
Plug
say
'em
it.
up.
Plug them up. And I think that's part of the whole process that we've learned here. And now that we know that, it's incumbent upon us to go out and say, I mean, the felony voting issue is one that comes directly to mind. That's,
Yeah, I didn't know that.
nobody, I think everybody sitting around the room until we Googled it and looked it up, and then Ian
Yeah.
confirmed it. Nobody really knew, but that's, how can we serve the community after doing this for 6 months? Is we have to go in and be the spreaders of the news, and rides to work, or I actually need to talk to you about something, but after today, but I think that's how we can increase awareness about the
Do
HRC.
we need to break it, since we know we have to use the city's website, do we need to break it down, like, one of us, I don't know, once a month or every couple of weeks, will submit this information? As you're saying, we are accountable to be the marketers or to have that awareness. Do we need to go that far as part of the recommendation?
I'm sure. Yeah, I mean, I don't know anything about computers, so
Okay.
go look at me.
I mean, I don't either, that's what I don't either.
I can barely spell Facebook, let alone get on it, so
You just assume sound that you got our
Oh,
back.
my husband's probably cracking up over there at me, because I'm the same way.
yeah.
It just, I don't, at least my opinion, I don't think that this is really something you have to put on your report, and because you're not making recommendation, that's just the thing, you're using city resources to share information. And as I said, Lauren already explained steps which every department goes. They are submitting content, and Lauren is a designated employee who shares information on the social media and website, but before all the content is approved by a service director and the mayor. So same will apply to you. You would give me and Lauren the content and information you want to have it on a website and on social media. It will go through the same process, and then it will be posted
I
if
just want to make
approved.
sure that you're getting stuff and you're getting stuff collectively.
And
Maybe
yes,
that's
and
an HRC
I know that you
question.
also mentioned, did you know information to be posted once in 2 weeks, but you really have to provide us the
Yeah.
content, what you want to post it,
Yeah.
because me and Lauren, we won't have an idea what you're,
Thank you.
yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, well, Marvin, do you feel comfortable in what you need to write, since you said you want to write it?
Yeah, I'm actually writing it as we speak. So
Uh-huh.
Is he not like?
He's getting
ahead.
ahead.
Like, here's the
That's an
city ordinance I worked on this morning.
That's an
Okay.
organized guy for you.
I'm telling you, well, thank you, sir.
you're welcome.
I'm even wearing my Missouri sweater, Marvin. I thought
I'm
you'd
so
be
glad
here.
I didn't come. So glad I didn't come. Just joking.
No, I know, me too.
Well, is there anything else that, John, Miss Phillips, is there anything?
Well, there is one thing. I think that the local church leadership is extremely important. So if we could please work together on that. I put a list together in a Google Doc that's all accessible to everyone on call. So I'm writing notes there, and I'll continue to add to it. And if we could all like help together to find maybe just the pastors of these churches, because under one of the items that I'd like to suggest to the mayor is that we meet with the church leaders either once every quarter or once every 6 months, so that we can bring things to their attention. For example, voting, policing, just the things that we deal with at the HRC that we want to better communicate to these groups of people. So I think if you all could help me with that, that would be fantastic.
Can I just use this good old fashioned Word document and put the pastors that I know on it? I got about 30 of them for you.
Well, I have a link that I posted there that has all the churches and their websites there in Troy. So if we could just start adding to that, that'd be great.
Do you want me to email it to you?
I don't see it. I don't see a link, Marvin.
I think he posted link on Google Drive, correct?
Yes.
I'm embarrassed, but can somebody show me how to get to Google Drive?
Is it will I be able to copy the link and email it to commission members?
It's not open to the public.
Your Google Drive is public. It is open to public. I'm sorry,
Well, no, the records are open to public, but my Google Drive is not open to public.
Can you just like maybe send me a text to walk me of how to like figure it out? Is that?
Well, if they already have an access to your Google Drive, they'll be able to access that link too. Correct?
Yes, correct.
So if you already have an access to that Google Drive, you'll be able to have an access to the link. They just need to have a link.
Yeah.
But I think not everyone knows how to access Google Drive.
You should text everybody. That's helpful.
I just texted everyone.
Awesome. I didn't know you could do that.
So did everyone just get that?
Yeah,
I just got it, yeah.
I will email it to you.
So you're gonna add the churches, I would assume under intergroup and community?
There's a document that I posted there, suggestions to Mayor 2020. I see Mr. Fong is already on it.
Holy cow, I never knew this existed. I just got 27 messages on my Google Drive.
Are you serious?
I got all this stuff. I didn't even-
I guess my grandson will be working hard teaching all this stuff. He's on tech.
Huh. Okay. So you're gonna you have sent that to us, Marvin. We just need to read through that.
Yes, I did. And so if you guys would note suggestions to Mayor 2020.
Okay.
There's a document that I started writing, and I'll continue to update that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You all are welcome.
Anything else, Miss Sonia?
I'm sorry, I was trying to get on the Google Drive.
No, you're fine. I'm just starving.
No, I have nothing else. I literally was zoned out in Google Drive. I don't have anything else. Do you guys have anything else? I presume Marvin will have it nicely written up, and then we'll see it at the next meeting. Next meeting is,
Hey, can I ask a question before we wrap it up?
Sure.
Did everyone get a chance to read the document that I submitted to City Council?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. I didn't hear any feedback, so I'm just assuming that everything's okay because it does involve our collective help in several areas of the document. There's like some things that we would have to do as a commission. So I basically volunteered everyone. So you probably should definitely read that.
okay. I'm fine with the doc.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. So will you have your recommendations for the mayor submitted and we can approve at HRC next week? Are you feeling that rambunctious, or do you
Well-
want to have them ready at the next community meeting that we're gonna set the time?
I'll start to write them and put them in there so you all can see them. And I would like a co-author to edit, revise if needed before we submit it.
Okay. Okay, so our next meeting, I'm sure we have that. I have a meeting on the 19th at 6:30, so I cannot do the 19th.
19th is the HRC meeting. At 6 o'clock.
It's the main HRC meeting.
Okay.
At the last meeting, they moved from 12th to 19th.
Okay, well, sorry. not gonna do that other meeting. Okay. So, when are we gonna meet next?
Let me get my calendar open.
And I will look for the rights to that play, because I think that's a good idea. I think it's a really good idea. It's also gonna demand diverse actors to fill the role. Like, I like that. I think it challenges and it honors local. It's a good foundation to recommend that play, so I will look for those rights.
So the 18th, is that when we want to meet? That would be the day before our HRC meeting as a whole?
18th, Education and Employment Committee meets at
Oh,
6
thank
o'clock.
you. That's right. I just see it in my calendar now. Okay. I can do the 17th if you guys want to do that, or if that's too many meetings in a row, I can,
I can't do the 17th. I have class that night.
okay.
I can do the 16th, Monday.
I'm good the 16th, I think.
That's too.
I can zoom in anytime, so I don't care. What day are you looking at? November 16th?
Yeah.
Is that for,
We have council, but
Yeah.
we can
Oh,
do it.
never mind.
Well, no, because we can, I mean, all we're really gonna do, the next step is gonna be read the recommendations and
That's,
we're gonna put them in, right?
that's,
So,
yeah, ideally that's
so,
what.
I mean, this only took an hour. I can't imagine that it's gonna take more than an hour to.
Okay, so 6 o'clock? Does anybody have anything else before we conclude?
Yeah. Hey, Marvin, I just got a text from Patrick that he just wanted me to make sure you remembered that Grant is researching some aspects of that statute or that ordinance as well. So did he share that? Yeah, I assume he shared that with
He
you.
did. Yes, he did.
Okay.
And have we heard any more about the Hispanic lady?
No, I need to reach out to her and ask again if she's willing to participate, and then the mayor would have to agree to allowing her to be on the board or on the commission. And I would suggest that we add some people to fill the vacancies that we have as well, because we don't want it to fizzle out. I think that this is important work and we should continue it. And if you all have people that you feel we should add to the commission, that would be great to put in front of the mayor. I think that there were some people that wanted to be on it that didn't get chosen for it. I don't know how they would feel about coming back. Or if we,
But also when you say vacancies, those are not really vacancies because by the ordinance, you can have from 6 to 15 members. So it depends how many members the commission will be. So those are not really vacancies you have to fill out. You could have 8 members.
and we can fill the vacancies that were lost as well, right? Where I guess you don't have to call them.
Those are not really vacancies.
Got it. But I guess what I'm saying is we have
Depends on mayor,
items.
yes.
We'd like to have
And
12
city
people
council.
on it so we can suggest to add those people back to where we started. Is everyone in agreement with that or no?
I am.
I
Okay.
don't know. That's up to you. That's up to the mayor, honestly. I don't care. I think the more the mayor, the more the mayor, or not.
The more the mayor?
The more the merrier. But I would suggest, once we get this done, Marvin, that we slow down the roll a little bit. I mean, just from a personal perspective, I'm not burned out on the concept, but between this and council and kids and trying to mow your grass because it gets dark at 6 o'clock at night
I
now,
know, I hate it.
it's really hard to keep things going. Maybe
I agree. No, I agree. I agree.
Okay.
Definitely.
once or twice a month instead of 4
Yeah.
times a
And
month. 5 times a
truthfully,
month.
if we, before we look at adding people, I would like some type of criteria, explanation, like, this is work. And when people get on a team, teams are fun. We need people that are gonna work. I'm not saying no one did it and that's why we're the size we are. I'm just being intentional that we find people that are willing to share the load, because that makes it easier when, everyone is doing it. And we are, I'm not
Right.
saying anything, but you know what I mean? Like we
Yep.
need, we don't have a co-chair right now. We need somebody who wants to do, those things, so. I agree, yeah, so let's look at some structure or something.
It's skyline time.
Well, I mean, I
Thank you.
can call the meeting.
You know, like skyline. Bro.
All right.
I'm not a good
All
eater.
right,
Adjourn.
have a good night. Thank you for all you
You're
do.
good,
I'm a real good cook.
I moved to
Everyone.
Second, they move to adjournment.
Sorry, that's what I was supposed to